Imagine waking up 12,000 years ago, in the very first village on Earth, a place no human had ever lived before. For the first time in hundreds of thousands of years, our ancestors chose to stop walking. They had no idea they were about to face dangers they had never evolved to handle and discover something that would change humanity forever. What if I told you the first village wasn't peaceful? It was one of the most dangerous places in human history.
A child wakes before sunrise. The air is cold, not freezing, just cold enough to make every breath visible. Outside, the darkness is beginning to soften. A fire still glows in the center of the settlement, reduced to a bed of orange embers. Around it, small shelters made of wood, mud, reeds, and animal hides stand silently in the fading night. Somewhere nearby, a dog lifts its head. The child hears footsteps, not strangers, neighbors, people they have known their entire life, people who sleep only a few meters away. For us, this scene feels ordinary, a village, a community, a place called home. But for almost all of human history, this scene would have been impossible because there was a time when villages did not exist. And the first people who attempted to create them were about to discover something no human had ever faced before: the dangers of living together. Most people imagine human progress as a straight line. Small groups become villages, villages become towns, towns become cities, simple, natural, inevitable. But that is not what happened. For hundreds of thousands of years, humans lived as wanderers. They followed animals, followed seasons, followed water. The world was their home. No walls, no permanent roads, no fixed addresses. If food disappeared, they moved. If danger arrived, they left. Mobility was survival, and survival was everything. Then something changed. Not suddenly, not dramatically, quietly, almost invisibly. Around 12,000 years ago, as the last ice age loosened its grip on the planet, temperatures began to rise. Glaciers retreated, forests expanded, rainfall patterns shifted, entire ecosystems transformed. The Earth itself was rearranging the conditions of human existence, and hidden inside those changes was an opportunity. For the first time, in some regions, food became predictable. Wild grains returned year after year, rivers flooded on regular cycles, animals gathered in familiar locations. Researchers believe some groups began staying longer in one place than ever before. Weeks became months, months became years. A temporary camp slowly became something humanity had never seen before, a permanent settlement. And with that decision, everything changed. At first, the advantages seemed obvious. No constant migration, no rebuilding shelters every season. Food could be stored, tools could accumulate, children could grow up in familiar surroundings. The future became easier to imagine. For the first time, humans could invest effort into a place they expected to remain. But every solution creates new problems, and the first village quickly revealed a disturbing truth. Humans had never evolved to live this way. Not at this scale, not this close together, not permanently. For hundreds of thousands of years, human groups were small, perhaps 20 people, maybe 50. Conflict could be escaped. If tensions grew too great, someone simply left. But villages changed the equation. Now people could not walk away so easily. Disagreements lingered, resources had owners, land had boundaries, possessions accumulated. For the first time, humans had something worth stealing, and history's oldest social experiment had begun. Archaeologists studying some of the world's earliest settlements noticed something strange. Skeletons, lots of them. Not unusual by themselves, but the injuries were fractured skulls, broken bones, signs of repeated violence. The evidence suggests that the first villages were not simply peaceful communities gathering around shared fires. They were pressure chambers, hundreds of people learning, often painfully, how to coexist. Because civilization did not emerge from harmony. It emerged from managing conflict. The village was not merely a collection of homes. It was a machine for forcing cooperation and sometimes forcing obedience. Then came another problem. One humanity had never encountered before: disease. Imagine living your entire life among a few dozen people. Now imagine hundreds living side by side, sharing water, sharing waste, sharing air, sharing animals. Researchers believe many infectious diseases became possible only after humans began settling permanently. The very thing that made villages successful also made them dangerous. Every gathering created opportunity, not just for humans, but for bacteria, parasites, viruses, invisible passengers that had found a new ecosystem, us. The first village may have felt safer than the wilderness, yet in many ways it introduced dangers the wilderness never could. But despite the violence, despite the disease, despite the hardship, villages continued to grow. Why? Because something extraordinary was happening. Knowledge was accumulating. In a mobile world, information travels with people. In a settled world, information survives generations. A child could learn from a parent, who learned from a grandparent, who learned from someone already gone. Ideas no longer died with individuals. They stayed, building layer upon layer, like stones stacked over centuries. The village became humanity's first memory device, a place where knowledge could outlive the people who created it, and that changed the future more than any tool ever could. Most people think the first village was simply a location, a collection of huts, a place on a map, but it was something much larger. It was a psychological revolution. For the first time, humans began defining themselves not only by family or tribe, but by place. Home became more than shelter. It became identity. People belonged somewhere. The concept feels obvious to us, yet it had to be invented. Every city, every nation, every border, every civilization can trace part of its existence back to those first settlements, to people who chose to stay, when every instinct developed over hundreds of thousands of years was telling them to keep moving. And then, inevitably, many of those first villages disappeared. Floods erased some, droughts destroyed others, conflict scattered entire communities. Time consumed almost all traces of their existence. Today, many survive only as fragments buried beneath layers of earth. A broken tool, a fire pit, a piece of pottery, silent evidence that someone once called this place home. Someone laughed here, worked here, loved here, and vanished. The village disappeared, but the idea did not. That may be the strangest part of the story. The first human village is gone. Its builders are gone. Their names are gone. Their voices have been silent for thousands of years. And yet their decision still shapes every moment of modern life, because the world we know was not built by kings or empires or technology. It began when a small group of humans stopped walking, stayed in one place, and accepted risks no human had ever accepted before. The first village did not survive, but neither did the world before it, and perhaps that is the hidden pattern beneath all of human history. Every civilization is built upon something that disappeared. Every future requires the death of a past, and somewhere beneath every modern city, every road, every home, there remains a faint echo of those first fires glowing in the darkness, a reminder that humanity's greatest transformation began not with conquest, but with a simple decision to stay.